English and Academic Communication Skills 1, DPP stroke EACS11. Okay, Year 1, Semester 1. Unit 1 and 2 by Ms. Naomi Kaugwata, October 2013. The module carries 20 credits and requires 200 hours of study. Please commit yourself to work consistently through this module. Upon completion of this module, you should be able to explain and demonstrate general and academic listening, reading, and writing skills. Before you start with your studies, please make sure that you have acquired the prescribed material from the Iol office. Please do not call the tutors for the study material. Once you have received your material, spend enough time reading through them. Very important. The prescribed study material include the Iol Study Guide by Ms. A. Basson, the English Handbook and Study Guide by Lutrin and Pincus, and the Concise Oxford Dictionary. Please make sure that you have those type of materials that I've just mentioned in order for you to be able to cope with your studies. Again, very important, please try by all means to avoid plagiarism. Read relevant material and use own words to explain what you have read. If you copy directly from a text or you copy directly from someone else's assignment, that is regarded as plagiarism because you did not rephrase that in your own words. As a matter of fact, you must have noticed that all plagiarized work has not been marked and that students involved were given a mark of 0 for the assignment and disciplinary steps were taken by Iol. So it's advisable to make sure that you do not copy directly from someone else's work, because the one who has given his work to somebody else to copy and the one who has copied both face disciplinary hearing or disciplinary steps that are normally taken by Iol office. Okay. The study guide by Ms. Basson consists of 3 units. I'll take you through Unit 1 and 2 in this audio lesson. Please listen carefully. Unit 1, Section 1, General and Academic Listening Skills. Learning outcomes for Unit 1. After you have completed this unit, you should be able to describe and demonstrate good listening skills in general and social situations. Interpret non-verbal clues in listening comprehension, such as intonation, personal space, gestures, and emphasis. Describe and demonstrate listening skills for note-taking in academic situations. So you need to be able to handle that after you have completed Unit 1 in your study guide. Now, let's get to the point of listening skills in general and social situations. Listening is a skill that needs to be practiced. Why? Why do we need to practice listening? Because when you listen, firstly, you hear what is being said. Secondly, you understand what is being said. And thirdly, you evaluate what has been said so that you can be in position to reason about what you have heard. Okay? The first stage in the process of listening is hearing. You hear what the person has said. Secondly, you evaluate, you understand. After you have heard, you understand what is being said. And thirdly, you evaluate what has been said so that you can be in position to reason about what you have heard. Now, at this level, as a student and a teacher at the same time, you need to become a good listener. That's one important aspect that we need to bring to your attention as a student and at the same time as a teacher. The question is, how do I become a good listener? Always pay attention to the speaker. When somebody is speaking or presenting a lecture to you, you must make sure that you pay attention to that speaker. Focus your mind on what is being said. Don't only pay attention, but your mind is somewhere else. Make sure that you focus your mind on what is being said. Try not to be emotionally involved in what the speaker is saying. Say, for instance, the speaker is telling a story that is a little bit horrific. You should not get emotionally involved in what the speaker is saying. Do not interrupt the speaker. Sometimes, as students, when you're listening to a lecture or a presentation, we tend to have questions and then we interrupt the speakers before he finishes speaking. So it's advisable not to interrupt the speaker. Pay attention to the main idea. The person, when somebody is presenting, there is always the main idea around the presentation, even though the person will be giving some examples and stuff, but the main idea is always there, so you must pay attention to the main idea. Keep your mind actively involved in what is being said. So now while the presenter is presenting, your mind must be actively involved. Your mind has to start comprehending and, try to be involved in what the person is saying. Reflect on that. Get involved with the speaker, maybe by nodding, okay, or by smiling to show that you're interested in what the person is speaking about or presenting to you. Interact with the speaker. So by interacting, I do not mean that you have to start, interrupting, but you interact with the speaker. Say, for instance, the speaker asks a question or he is expecting a response from your side. You should be able to demonstrate that you are interacting with them and you're not there as a dead wood. Write down the words and phrases you find unclear and questions that comes to your mind while the person is speaking. So while the presenter is presenting, we normally take down notes. And it's important that when you take down the notes, you write down the words or the phrases that you find unclear. And also, if a question comes to your mind while the person is presenting, write down that question so that you do not forget. And then you do all this for clarification at the end of the presentation or when you're given a chance to ask a question. Keep eye contact with the speaker. When somebody is speaking to you, it's very important that there is eye contact between the two of you, the presenter and the listener, because otherwise, if there is no eye contact between the two, then you might lose interest and you would not really comprehend everything that the person is trying to present to you. When you make comments, do it with respect. It's very, very important that at this level, you show a lot of respect at all time. So now, say for instance, you want to make a comment. The person or the presenter has said something that you think it was not really very well articulated, or you have better knowledge than what the person has said and you want to make a comment. You have to do it in such a way that the person who was presenting appreciate your comment and not really take it as a critique or a criticism. So do make your comments with a lot of respect. Keep an open mind. Your mind must be open to receive what the person is presenting to you. Practice the skill, the listening well. So you must practice listening all the time. Whenever you are in a meeting or you are in a lecture or you are in a certain presentation or you are talking to somebody in a social space, make sure that you practice the culture of listening, because if you're not a very good listener, you will not be a very good speaker. Section 2 in Unit 1. Interpretation of non-verbal clues in listening comprehension. So when somebody speaks, there are certain non-verbal clues that the person also uses in order for him to convey the message or to make sure that he attracts the attention of the listeners. So say for instance, the person uses body language. So it's important to understand the body language and non-verbal communication. It's so important that you understand the body language of the presenter and any other non-verbal communication which the presenter is making. So the nonverbal communication include intonation, gestures, personal space, and emphasis. What do we mean by intonation? Intonation is the modulation of the voice and accent with an aim to attract the attention of the listener. You modulate your voice, you pitch your voice low or sharp in order for you to attract the attention of the listener. By doing that, we refer to that process as intonation. This means that it is important for the speaker to vary his or her voice and tone. So you vary your voice and your tone so that you maintain, the interest of your listeners. Okay? Personal space is one of the body language which the person uses, or the signal that is being used by the presenter. So now, what do we mean by personal space? This is the area close to the speaker in which the speaker feels comfortable. When somebody is in front of a class or in front of an audience presenting, he creates a space where he feels comfortable and he moves freely around that space. So which means that this space now belongs to that person until he has finished presenting. Therefore, we need to respect this space. Instead of coming and bumping yourself onto the speaker or moving too close to the speaker so that you disturb him, please respect that personal space of the speaker. Gestures. Gestures are those signals which are used in communication. We most often use hands when communicating, but the rest of the body can also be used effectively to stress a point, for instance. So when you look at the person presenting, we have different ways of using signals that would, demonstrate what you're trying to say, or maybe to make things understandable to our listeners. So we have to pay attention to all those things when we are listening, because they help us understand what the person is trying to say. Some presenters even demonstrate what they are saying, and when we pay attention to those signals, we understand the story or the presentation much better. Emphasis. If you want to stress a certain fact or an idea, you do a number of things. For example, you may raise your voice, you start raising your voice, or you may repeat the information, say it over again, or you use your hands, and etc. This is done so that the listener gets the importance of what is said. Okay? So that is what I wanted to say about Unit 1, Section 2. Section 3, listening and note-taking in academic situations. Listening and note-taking. It's very, very important that we pay attention to this aspect. Some hints of writing notes. Okay, I'm giving you some hints on how to write notes, because it's very, very important as an academic or a student at this level to know how to take notes. Do not write everything that you read or hear. When you read a book for academic purposes or for writing an essay or for studying or writing an assignment, you always take notes. So, but it's advisable that you do not write everything that you read. Or even when somebody is presenting a lecture, an academic lecture, you listen, you hear, you understand, but as you listen and hear and understand this, you make sure that you take note. And when you take notes, you should not write everything. Make use of keywords or short sentences. You make use of the keywords that are being mentioned by the presenter, or that are available in the book that you have written, or the chapter or the text that you are reading, and or if you don't want to make use of the keywords, write short sentences. You can write a sentence, but the sentence must be very short. What are they saying still about note-taking? You must be accurate. When we take notes, we have the tendency of writing very rough, and then sometimes we lose important information. Use own words. Do not change the meaning. You use your own words, but you make sure that you maintain the meaning of the aspect, the way it has been presented or written by the author. Ensure that codes are accurate. You're taking down a code that you want to use at a later stage, so make sure that you have taken the code accurately so that when you use it, you have the correct reference of that particular code that you have taken. You have to be mentally involved with the material you are listening to or even reading. You must make sure that you are mentally, involved. Your mental capacity must work while listening so that you make sure that, you comprehend very well what you're listening on. Okay? It's a good idea to have your own system of taking notes. We have our own way of taking notes. Everyone has his own way of taking notes. So, but make sure that you have that particular way that you have already designed that my way of taking notes is this way. And you keep that system so that it helps you take proper notes that are comprehensible and which are meaningful as well and which are accurate, as I said. It's a good idea to have your own system of taking notes. Do not pack your notes with unnecessary information. So now when you take notes, we sometimes have a tendency of rewriting everything the way we hear them, and then we have so many notes and the book is full with your notes, and sometimes when you want to fall back on them, it becomes so long and too much to read. So they say do not pack your notes with unnecessary information. Try to be very precise to the information that you want, the keywords and short sentences. Have an organized way of keeping notes. So now once you have taken notes, we don't only take notes. Today you take notes in a certain book, the other day on a loose paper, the other day on what, and then by the time you want to make use of the notes, you do not even know where those notes are. So have a proper way to organize those notes so that you keep them together, and by the time you need them, you'll be able to easily access them and start using them. Always edit your notes just after taking them. After you have taken your notes, don't just put them aside and then decide that you look at them in 2 weeks' time. Try to edit those notes immediately. Look at them immediately, edit them so that you see that you have the concise information that you needed on those notes, and then put them aside for later use if necessary. Review your notes and study material often and regularly. Once you have taken your notes and you have put them nicely or kept them where you're supposed to keep them, properly organized, you make sure that those notes have to be studied. So you have to go through those notes again. You also have to make sure that while you are a student, you need to fall back on your books regularly. You must make sure that you access your books all the time. All right. That is the end of Unit 1. That was the end of Unit 1. Unit 1 was basically on listening comprehension. Okay, now, and listening and note-taking. Now let's move on to Unit 2. Unit 2 is about general and academic reading skills. Now we are looking at reading. We've talked about listening and note-taking. Now we are looking at academic reading for academic purposes and as well as reading for general purposes. Okay, we are advised in this unit to read Lutrine, page 67. That gives us a lot of information regarding reading for general purposes as well as reading for academic purposes or reading for academic skills. Upon completion of this unit, you should be able to explain the value of reading a lot. What is the value of reading a lot? You need to be able to explain that after you have done this unit. Okay. Describe the competent reader. Explain the role of grammar and vocabulary in effective reading. Demonstrate comprehension of written text. Explain and demonstrate reading techniques. Describe how to read a text, paper, magazine critically. Describe how to read examination papers. Very important. Describe and demonstrate the proper use of dictionary and thesaurus. Okay, section 1. Let's look at section 1. Let's start with the value of reading a lot. The following are the reasons why we should read a lot. Reading makes you smarter. It makes you smarter. You're already smart, but the more you read, you become smarter because you get to know many things that you did not know before. Reading improves your grammar and vocabulary, and thus improve your academic ability. So the more you read, the more you improve on your grammar, the more you improve on your vocabulary, and thus you improve your academic ability. So you'll be able to apply the language or the grammar appropriately. You'll be able to have the relevant vocabulary to use when needed, and you'll be able to improve academically. All right? Reading increases your knowledge of the subject and allows you to take useful comments on a given topic. And it increases your knowledge of the subject matter and allows you to make useful comments of a given topic. When you are given a certain topic to deal with, you'll be able to make give useful comments because you have read a lot around that particular subject matter. Readers are creative people. People who read a lot are very creative. If you want to become an author one day, or if you want to write, even if you want to write your assignments or essays for publications or whatever, you must read a lot. Because the more you read, the more creative you become. And when you decide to tackle a certain topic, it becomes easy because you have read a lot. Reading encourages creativity or creative thinking and creative writing. When you read a lot, you get encouraged to write, to think, all these things. So in a creative manner, because you have read a lot. So it's very, very important that you read a lot. Section 2 in Unit 2. The description of a competent reader. We talked about a competent reader. And we said as people, as academic at this level, we need to become competent readers. The competent reader uses reading strategies such as phonics, contextualization, word attack skills, sense of correct use of grammar, and is able to make meaning of unfamiliar text. That's what a competent reader can do. Once you are a competent reader, you'll be able to play around with text. You read this text today, you play around with it, you contextualize it, you have the capacity to recognize mistakes made in that thing. You'll be able to make meaning out of a text that you've just approached. Use self-help strategies to hear when an error occurs during reading and be able to correct him or herself. A competent reader develops self-help strategies to hear when an error occurs during reading and be able to correct himself while making that mistake. Because you have developed that strategy, you see that I've made a mistake here and you'll be able to correct yourself. Scan ahead and tackle longer and complex sentences. Competent readers are able to scan ahead of time a sentence that they think is too long or it is complex. You'll be able to scan it and you'll be able to tackle it. Maybe make it shorter or maybe understand it well or define its focus. So it's very, very important that you as a competent reader have those skills. And before you reach that stage of being able to do all this, then you are still not a competent reader. Therefore, you're encouraged to read a lot so that you become one. Visualize. Okay, competent readers can visualize. While he's reading an article or a text or he's reading a book, what you start doing is to visualize and imagine as if you were there when those activities were taking place, or you visualize and contextualize them so that you understand them very well. Find specific information in the text. You'll be able to do that once you are a competent reader. So say, for instance, you are asked to look for specific information in a very long text of like 10 pages. So you will be able to easily find them, while someone who's not a competent reader will struggle to get to that. Identify unusual and interesting words and can comment on its use in conversations and in writing. You see, when you are a competent reader, you'll be able to identify unusual words, words which are not really used all the time, and you'll be able to identify words that are interesting, and you'll be able to competently comment and make use of those kinds of words in your own conversation or in writing when you write. A competent reader can comment on literary aspects such as setting. You can comment on the setting of a certain story. Something like this was happening, and what, and this happened. So you'll be able to, to identify yourself with that particular setting and even define that I believe that the setting at that particular moment was ABC. Point of view, you'll be able to identify the point of view of the author. You'll be able to identify, or you can comment on the characteristics of the authors or the presenters or the people in the play or in the story. Okay, section 3. The role of grammar and vocabulary in reading. We said after you have completed this unit, you should be able to identify the role of grammar and vocabulary in reading. What is the role of grammar and vocabulary in reading? A reader should have solid knowledge of grammar and vocabulary of the target language in order to be able to read successfully. Very, very important. If you do not know the grammar of a certain language, then you will struggle to read the target language and be able to understand it successfully. So in order for you to be able to do that, you should have solid knowledge of the grammar and vocabulary of the target language in order for you to be able to be a successful reader. The reader must have the ability to manipulate the language and employ the vocabulary of the language so as to be competent in reading. The reader must have the ability to manipulate the language. You should be able to manipulate the language, employ the vocabulary, meaning that you should be able to use the vocabulary of the language so as to be competent in reading. Very, very important. The reader must be willing to include new vocabulary in the existing vocabulary. The existing vocabulary that you know already, or the existing vocabulary that has been used by the particular person who have written a certain topic or a certain text, you should be able to include new vocabulary in that. You should be able to do that if you are a competent reader. Section 4 of Unit 2. Comprehension of written text. The comprehension of a written text. The reader must use clues in a text to deduce the meaning intended by the writer. In order for you to be able to comprehend what the person has said, make sure that as you read, you use clues in the text to deduce the meaning of the meaning intended by the writer. Okay? Use the range of imaginative reading strategies to make meaning. You must make use of imaginative strategies, because while you are reading, you have to imagine yourself as well. You don't only read, but you also do some imaginations so that you understand the text. For example, you do some speculations, you ask some questions, or you question the visuals or visualize what the person has said or the person has written about. Find main and supporting ideas in the text. Very, very important. When you read a text, you should know that this one is the main idea of the text, and these are supporting details that supports what the person wanted to say. Find evidence for inferences. You also have to find evidence for inferences. If you want to make inferences, there must be evidences that can help you to make inferences. Identify information, words in the text. Verify those words, information words in a text. There are some words in the text that will provide information, so you should be able to identify that if you're a competent reader. Understand the point of view, settings, and characteristics. Very important. Can you use relations between occurrences and incidents? Make connection between questions and facts found in the text. Very, very important. You should be able to make connections between questions and facts that are presented in a particular text. That's when you become a very good reader or a competent reader. Section 5. Reading techniques. Reading techniques are very, very important techniques for a reader. Because reading becomes difficult at times or boring because of the volume. Say, for instance, if you have to write an assignment and you are asked to read 3 or 4 different books, of which you may pick out maybe 2 chapters in each of the books, and the chapters are very long, it becomes boring for you to read. And becomes tricky, and it becomes too much. So therefore, you need to know the strategies or the techniques that can be used in order for you to cope with this reading, so that it becomes easy for you to handle the volume of reading that you are confronted with. Okay, now the reading techniques that you're learning in these modules, there are many, but for the sake of this module, we are teaching you 3 different reading techniques, and you need to know them very well because they appear in examinations all the time. Skimming, scanning, and the KSQ4R reading technique. Okay, I'll come to that. Skimming refers to looking through reading material quickly to gather a general sense of the ideas, information, or the topic itself. When you skim, you read through the article 3 or 4 times faster than when you read each word. For example, students read the headline of the first sentence of each paragraph of an article, then pair up to discuss the guest a topic of the article. Say, for instance, you are asked that, okay, you are students in a class, or you assign your students to quickly read the headline of the first sentence of each paragraph. They read the first sentence of each paragraph, and then you make them sit together or pair up so that they guess the topic and discuss it together, the topic of the article. So it's very important that you know how to apply that skill. That is skimming, or that technique. Or students have 2 minutes to read the article. After 2 minutes, they pair up to discuss the content of the piece. So you ask your students to read with an article of like 2 pages, and you ask them to read in 2 minutes, and after they have read that, you ask them now to sit together or pair up and then discuss the content of the piece. So they would not read the text in detail because they have got only 2 minutes to do that. But what do? They skim through the article, and then they discuss the general understanding. As I said, they quickly discuss the general idea, and then after that is when you give them now the time to read through the article or do a close reading of the article. Scanning is one reading technique as well. It refers to reading the material find specific information. You are looking for specific information in a certain material. But you cannot just get it without reading. You need to read. But when you scan, you run your eyes over the text to pull out the specific words, phrases, or the data that you're looking for. For example, you flip through an accounting report to find a particular data. Okay? Or you look up the meaning of the word in a dictionary. So you ignore the whole information that is in the report and you just go to that particular data that you want. Or you ignore the whole information in a dictionary and then just go to the meaning of the particular word that you want. So that is a reading technique, but it's very fast. And that is the fastest method of reading. Scanning is faster than skimming, and it's faster than close reading. So that is the fastest method of reading. You just go directly to the information that you want. Maybe you're looking for a date of publication of a certain article. You don't read the whole article, but you just go to where you get the date of publication, and that's it. So it is the shortest method of reading. The KSQ4R reading technique is a reading technique that is based on a top-down processing model and involves the following steps. It's mostly used in class by the teachers to make sure that the students, relate themselves very well with the article they are reading. And what do? The first thing, the K stands for knowledge. The first thing the teacher tries to, provoke the knowledge of the learners. The learner has to try and relate his prior knowledge to the knowledge of the article before they read, just by looking at the title. And then they survey the article, they prepare their own questions, then they read the article, they recite by reading halfway, go through it again, and go on. Review the article by going through the whole article again, review it, and then go ahead, reflect, now try to recap or remember what they have read. So that is another method or reading technique that is applied mostly in school, and it's very, very important. It helps the learners to cope with reading. Okay, section 6. How to read text, paper, magazine critically. So, most readers are very critical. And a critical reader regards any single text as providing facts. They regard any single text as providing facts. Therefore, when they read with a critical mind. This one is providing these facts. Am I happy with these facts? Have they presented it very well? Am I happy with the way they have presented it or not? So you have to have a critical eye when reading a text, because critical readers regard any single text as providing factual information. The critical reader looks both at what the text says and how the text portrays the subject matter. What does the text say? That's the question of the critical mind. But how was this text? How was this subject matter presented? How was it presented? In a negative way? In a positive way? Okay, and what is the person trying to say here? This is what the critical readers say. But a person who just reads for the sake of reading would not even pay attention to that. But it's very important at this level to be able to be critical readers in whatever we read, whether it's just a text, whether it's a newspaper article that we read, or whether it's a magazine that we read. So we must make sure that we apply your critical mind to it. Critical readers recognize the various ways in which each and every text is okay. They recognize that each and every text is a unique creation of a unique author. Very, very important. When you tackle a reading text or an article in the magazine or an article in the newspaper, you should know that that is the unique creation or a unique work that is created by a unique person. So it's very, very important that you pay attention to that, because every person has his own way, his unique way of writing, unique way of presenting information. Starting page 25 and 6 of your study guide, that's where you get all this nice information properly articulated. I'm encouraging you to read a lot, my students. Section 7, how to read the text and examination papers. Read through the text examination papers slowly. Relax your mind while reading. Students have a tendency of, getting frustrated or getting stressed when reading examination papers, and that's why they end up failing the examination. So it's very, very important that you pay attention to these particular aspects. Read through the text or examination paper slowly. You must relax your mind. Don't stress. Don't panic. Okay. While reading the questions for the second time, start making the mental connection between what you are reading and what you know about the subject matter. So your mental connection has to start, operating now. Okay, that is when you are reading the questions, maybe for the second time, because you start going through the questions again for the first time, and then the second time you start making that mental connection. Read the questions again and decide which of them you are certain of. You decide which ones do you think you know the answers very well. And when you get to that, start formulating the answers. And remember to start answering the questions that you are very confident that you have the correct answers for, and then go back to those that you think you just guessed the answers. Remember to always read through your answers again when you have finished answering. When you have finished answering your whole examination paper, go through your answers again, edit your work, and then submit it. So don't be in a rush. Take your time, because all the time you have 2 hours, you have 2 hours and a half, you have 1 hour, and that is a lot of time to write an examination paper. All right. Now we are looking at one aspect, and this is the proper use of the dictionary. The proper use of the dictionary. Students take the dictionary for granted, because the only thing that the dictionary is there to provide the meaning of the words, and we know English and we know the meanings of the words, so we don't need the dictionary. The dictionary has more to offer than the meanings of the words. It has a lot of functions. It provides the meaning of the words. That's what we know, all of us. It helps with pronunciation of words. Some of us struggle to pronounce words appropriately. So if you look at the dictionary, it provides the pronunciation. It provides the parts of speech. We have a word and you do not know what kind of word it is. You look up in the dictionary, it shows that this is a verb, this is an adjective, this is a noun, and this is a word. Okay? It shows the origin of the word. Where does the word come from? It comes from French, come from Latin, German, Sherero, English, whatever. And it also shows abbreviations. Okay? It also shows abbreviations. How do I abbreviate this word? Say, for instance, the words are too long and I want to abbreviate them. I have to have the best way of abbreviating the word, the way it's given in the dictionary. So you have to use your dictionary to find the abbreviation form of a certain word. Plural form of the words, various meanings of the words. You have a word, you do not know how to put it in the plural form, and then you just do it the way you want and then expect somebody else to help you. You should not always wait for help. Help yourself. Find the plural form of the word in the dictionary. Various meanings. Words have different meanings. Okay? Say, for instance, the word a book, for instance, means the book that I carry around and read. It means to make a booking at the hotel. It means something else. So you need to have, the dictionary provides those various meanings, so that when this word is used in another context, I should be able to understand it. It provides the idiomatic use of the word. It's very, very important that as a user of a certain language, we should be able to relate ourselves with idiomatic use of words as well, so that at least we can play around with the language. So it's very, very important that you use your dictionary to look up the idiomatic use of a certain word or the words that you want to make use of. It also provides a phrase giving the meaning of a word. You see, sometimes you have the meaning of the word, but you do not know how to use it in a sentence. But if you take your dictionary, it will give you a sentence or a phrase that can help you understand the meaning of the word or help you use the word appropriately in a proper sentence. Okay. Further notes on this can be found in Lutrine on page 60. Very, very important. This is always an assignment question or an examination questions. We come across it. So it's very, very important that we go through this and make use of Lutrine and understand this very well. Please make use of your study guide all the time. Make use of the Lutrine book, grammar book that I've just talked about, and your dictionary, so that you are up to date with what you need to know regarding English and academic communication skills course.